So in this section, what I want to do is show you some techniques that you can use in Onshape for producing oscillating motion in our automata. You can also use this set of techniques, though, even if you're not planning on doing oscillating motion, as just a really good set of techniques for helping figure out the motion in your automata. So to start with, what I want to show you is this example right here. This is just a flat 2D sketch. So we're going way back to some of the stuff that we learned at the very beginning of this class when we first started doing design, where we started sketching, started adding dimensions and constraints. But we're going to be using this specifically to figure out how our thing can move, how we want it to move for our automata. So here's an example of a finished version of this sketch that I'm going to then show you how to kind of build along with. So what I want is this round circle, which is going to be our object. I want to figure out how to make it move along this arced path. And if I grab this circle, you're going to notice I can drag it, and it stays moving along that arced path right there. So the question is kind of how do I make this happen, and then how do I turn this into an actual 3D object? So to start with, I want to show you this. This is just the basic sketch that I started from, and it's very simple. It's just the outline of the box for the automata, and then this set of 3 construction lines just represents the follower right here. Okay, so this is just the starting point. Now that I have that starting point, let's dig into how I can use this to figure out how that motion is going to work. So I'm going to zoom back a little bit, and I'm going to start by sketching an object. I'm going to make a circle. We'll make it 0.75 inches in diameter, and I want you to notice, as soon as I've got this circle, watch what I can do. I can drag this thing around, and I can move it anywhere in my sketch. That's assuming that I didn't start my circle where it was already coincident with another point. In other words, where it wasn't connected to another point. If I made this thing coincident, I could change the diameter, but I can't move it around in space. And if I set the diameter of this, I can't move it at all. And Onshape shows you this by showing you that this line is now black instead of blue. Blue means that it's not constrained in Onshape. The black line means that it is constrained fully. Okay, so far so good. Let's get rid of this second circle. We don't need it. It was just for demo purposes. All right, so I can move this circle anywhere I want, but we know in the real world, if we don't have anything connecting this to anything else, that circle is just going to fall on the ground. Okay, so that's no good. We need it connected some way. And that's where we need to bring in the second part, which is our link. How do we link this to the follower? To make our link for this, I'm just going to use a simple line for right now. It's not going to be a 2D part or a 3D part for right now. It's just going to be a line that says this circle should be this far away from the follower. So I'm going to click on the center point of the circle. I'm going to click on this center point of this construction line, which again is just representing the follower. And now I want you to notice what happens. Now if I grab that circle, I can still drag it around anywhere, but the line stays attached to it, right? Good so far? But here's what I want you to think about. In the real world, does the length that holds that object to the follower change length, or does it stay constant? It stays constant. The link is not going to expand and contract. It's not a rubber band. It's going to be some solid material. So here's what we want to do. We want to give this thing a dimension that allows us to say it should be this far away at any time, no matter where it's moving. I'm going to say that that should be 4 inches. And now I want you to notice really carefully. When I go to move this circle around, I can still move it around, but all of a sudden it only moves in an arc that is exactly 4 inches away from that center point. In other words, this is not changing distance, it's only changing position. So how do I figure out where that arc should be that this thing should be able to travel in? Well, it's pretty simple. I'm going to do a couple of things. First thing I'm going to do is set a point. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. I'm going to find this midpoint here, and I'm going to move my mouse up. And you notice that it's already enforcing a vertical constraint when I do that, since I've already chosen that midpoint as a reference. And I'm just going to place a point. I'm going to do the same thing here, find that midpoint, except this time I'm just going to move my mouse out, and you're going to notice that it's enforcing a horizontal constraint. And if I turn on Show Constraints, you can see I've got that horizontal constraint on this one, vertical constraint on this one. Now what I want to do is set the dimension, the distance from this point to this point. If it's going to represent the length of that linkage, it's got to be 4 inches, just like the linkage. Same thing over here. Got a dimension from here to here, and I'm going to set that this is also 4 inches. Now what I want to do to kind of conclude this is I need to make a 3-point arc. I'm going to go ahead and choose this point and this point. And what do you think the radius of this should be? If the two endpoints are 4 inches, what do you think the radius of that arc should be? Should also be 4 inches, right? Anywhere along that point or along that arc should be exactly 4 inches from the center. So I'm going to set the radius. Whoops. I'm going to set the radius of this. I'll use my dimension tool. Set the radius of this to 4 inches. Why is it not like that? Why does it not like that? There's some other constraint that's on here that I am missing. What is the other constraint? Let's get rid of that. Why does it not like this? Let me try deleting this arc, and let's try that again. I think I missed something as I was talking. Let's set that radius to 4 inches. There we go. I don't know what happened before. Somehow something got off. All right. So now I want you to notice, as I move this circle, it stays exactly along that path, right? Which is what we want and what we expect. Now, if I was going to turn this into a set of real parts, maybe this becomes like a peg that rides along in a slot. This is not a slot yet. It's just a line. But I can use a couple of tools to help me out. I can grab my offset tool. I can offset this some amount. Sure, we'll say 0.5 inches to give it a little bit of wiggle room if we need that. Let's offset this in the other direction as well. Oops. Let's try that again. Let's offset this in the other direction as well. We'll set that to 0.5 inches as well. Maybe I want to make this look nice. Maybe I'll put some rounded edges on my slot. Something like that. And now I've got a thing that I could extrude. I could either remove that away from something else to act as like a slot that can ride along in. Maybe I could create a part that sort of comes out from here. Whatever I want to do, I can now drag this along here, and I can see that this will stay exactly in that slot. Onshape freaks out a little bit. Sometimes you might notice that it looks like it's jumping out of there. That's just Onshape glitching. Okay. So that's a set of techniques for using constraints and dimensions and just a little bit of simple math to figure out what the motion for this oscillating thing in your automata might look like.